Hello everybody, my name is Corey Lanou, and today I'm going to build a very simple Buffalo app. I have an old client from ages ago that I did a website for. As you can see, here's some awesome website that I did for a local person that does custom sound and video installation. And what I'm going to do today is I'm going to basically take this layout here. I'm going to use a Buffalo app, and I'm going to make a mobile layout. As you can see, this site is very old. It probably doesn't pass any of the Google standards anymore, so it probably doesn't even show up in the search engines if you're on your mobile phone, which isn't ideal. So we're just going to go ahead and take this very static site and convert it to a very simple bootstrap layout. Now, it does have an image gallery in it that's going to create some type of hurdle for us to get through. We're going to have to figure out how we want to do that. But initially, the first pass is going to be basically take this content, put it in a new bootstrap layout for mobile, a very simple design, and start from there. So with that, we're going to go ahead and get started. All right, so now we have Buffalo installed. So if I'm at my command line, I can just type Buffalo version just to see that it's actually installed and get my version back. Now I'm going to go ahead and generate a new project. I don't want to use database support, so I'm going to use the skip pop option. And so I can do that by saying Buffalo new. I'm going to get the name of my project. And then skip pop, because I don't want any database support. Now you want to be in an upper level directory. This is going to generate all of the actual files in a new directory for you. So it's going to create a directory called Craze Custom Sound. And then it's going to go ahead and create my scaffolding for me. And it's resolving all my yarn files right now for any of the front end stuff it's generating. That should be done shortly. And when that's finished, I can literally use the Buffalo dev command. You have to cd into the project, so let's get into the project there, Craig's Custom Sound. Now I'm in the actual Buffalo project, so now clear this out, so we get rid of that. And so I will say Buffalo dev, that will actually fire up the website, and we see it actually starting up there. It starts on port 3000 automatically. So if we go to the right there, now we actually have a Buffalo app, and we can see this is the actual handler. This is the default handler that ships with it. So we can go ahead and now change any of these pages and add some more pages. So this is the start of it. So here we are at the beginning, and from here now we're going to go ahead and create some more pages. Now that we have our basic app generated, let's go ahead and take a look at some of the files that we're going to be working with. So I'm going to go ahead and open up Vim here, open up my nerd tree, and the things we need to know about right away, if we're wondering how this page got generated over here, how this index page got generated, a couple of things were in play. The first thing is under actions, we're going to find there's an app.go and there's also a home.go. Okay. So these two files here kind of render that. So the handler for the home page is actually this handler right here. It's a very simple handler. It's a basic Buffalo handler. The name of it is home handler. It takes a Buffalo context and it just returns a context.render. And the status code is 200. And then here's the actual index page itself, the template that we're going to return back. So if we look over here now, we'll find that in our actual app for Buffalo, we have an app.get. We've told it that it's the index, and we've given it the home handler. So this is how we wire up the basic routing automatically. We've got some things above this that do some basic housekeeping for us to set up the actual system for us. But the important part here is this is how it got routed. So I think the first thing we need is a little bit of navigation. So let's go ahead and add a nav bar to our site. I'm going to use Bootstrap theming, which is built in automatically. And so I'm going to create a partial for that. And it's going to be a templates nav bar. Starts with an underscore because it shows that it's a partial. And I copied some Bootstrap code already. So let's go grab that from Bootstrap. So here's Bootstrap right here. I'm going to grab this right here and paste that in. So this is just straight from their sample. At this point now I have to go ahead and add it to my actual application though. So I want to go ahead and put this right here. I'm going to add a partial. Just grab this one here. And now I don't put the underscore in the name of the partial here. That's basically implicit when you do a partial, but it shows up automatically here as a partial because it's an underscore in the file naming convention. So that's kind of why you use a underscore there in the file naming, but you don't use it when you do your partial. So now if I come to my website over here and I do this, now we have a nav bar up here. So this is the first step of adding that. So now that I've got my nav bar installed, I'm going to go ahead and keep adding a few more pages and keep adding some more generalized layout for the actual site. Okay, so I went ahead and roughed out the basic landing pages. So we have a home page, we have an About Us page, a Products and Services page, and a Contact Us page. And if we look at the code that we did for that, let's start with the actual application itself. Notice that I added products and contact now. So I added those, and I created some basic handlers for that too. So I created a contact handler, and I created a products handler as well. So those were the actual pieces to do that. And then as far as the actual templates, this was pretty simple as well. If we look over here, we'll see in our templates over here, we now have a contact, index, products, and about. And they're just simple H1 headers right now. All right, now it's time to add some active navigation magic. So right now, as you can see, when I click from navigation, it actually doesn't tell me where I'm at. And I want to do that. Now with Bootstrap, it's as simple as just adding an active class. So if I'm over here, I can just do this, right? So I've got my active class, I hit OK, I refresh it, and then we're fine. But obviously this is static, and that's not what I want. So I need to actually create a helper for Plush, and we can do that. If you go to the actions render.go, we can actually create a Plush helper. Now I've already got one that I created here. I call it active class. And all it does is it takes a string in, which is going to be my first argument. And then it takes the help Plush helper context, which we don't pass in the actual template, as you'll see. Now, this is kind of some interesting code here, but all I'm doing here is just getting the current route. So I'm getting the current route. And then if the path name matches the route, which is the string that's going to be passed in, I simply return back an actual text string of active. Otherwise, I return nothing. Now, if you want to know what your routes are, it's really easy. You can just go ahead and run buffalo routes like I've done before. So if I run it again, we'll see that it actually outputs the routes. So the route I want for the index is actually going to be the root path. That's the name of it. It's called root path. So if I go back to here, I can now go ahead and type in where I want it right here. Active, oops. That's my helper, active class. I want it to match root path, which is the name of the path. And close that up, and there we have the home one. Now I have to do one more thing here. I now actually have to tell Buffalo I have a new helper that I created. If I go ahead and I try to retrieve this page right now, I'm going to get an error, and it's going to tell me that it doesn't know what the active class identifier is. It has no way to know that. How it knows that is I have to register my helper. And I can do that by doing this, active class, and then the actual name of the helper. So that will wire that in. So now, if I refresh this, now it actually shows, and it shows it's active. Now, if I go to any other page, they're not active. I haven't wired those in, but the home page is dynamically picking up. That's where I'm at. So now I just have to finish out my template very easily here. Grab this right here. Put these in. And then I need to change them. So for the About Us, it's going to be the About path. And for the products, it's going to be the products path. And for the contact, it's going to be contact path. So if I got this right, and if I refresh my page, now when I click around through here, oop, I didn't get that one right. Did I miss them? It appears that I didn't get those right. So what did I miss? So let's go ahead and look at my path. So About path, contact path, products path. So that looks right there. And that would be because I put them in the wrong spot. So let's put them where they're supposed to be here. Oops. Vim is making me work for it today. There we go. Now let's see what happens. There's what we wanted. Ta-da! Oh, we're missing the contact. Do I still not have that one right? That's because I don't have a space there. And now it's all working. So now I have active navigation. Very easily, it's dynamic and really easy to keep up to date without a bunch of custom code. This is where helpers come into play very, very nicely with the Plush helpers and rendering. Okay, so now that I got everything kind of working from a navigation, I spent some time actually updating the actual templates and adding some content in. Now the content's pretty simplistic. It's from the old site, and I'm using the Bootstrap layouts for all of this. And so as we can see, I changed the navigation bar to be a little bit more friendly to the theme that he had before. The custom sound and video is there in a different color, a dark background, and basically I have these panels right here. Now this looks really big on a big screen. I have a really big screen. And what we have to remember with a lot of the layout today now is that the majority of the people viewing websites are actually on mobile. And I know for specifically this client right here, the majority of what his clientele is looking for is going to be showing up in the search engines and actually viewing on their phone. So if we look at this in the actual mobile layout, we can just come over here and do this. And now you can see it actually looks like this, right? So this doesn't look so bad on mobile. We get our navigation now over here like this. We can go to the About Us, just some simple text there. We go to Products and Services. These are just some of the things that they offer. If we go to the Contact Us, very quick, just how do they get a hold of them? Again, very simple static site. The real magic of this site kind of came in when I started doing the gallery layout. So to do the gallery, that was a little more complex. What they had before was just a bunch of folders with images in there. I didn't want to build something dynamic. I wanted to have something where it kind of mirrored what they had before. But the other one basically had them when they clicked on it, it actually opened the image up in another navigation link, and you had to click back. You kind of lost your navigation. That wasn't really desirable. With Bootstrap 4, we have some better options. So I can use the basic card layout and image thumbnails, which is really nice. And then I can also just use the pop-ups now. So then when we want to see an image that's a little bit larger, that's fine. Now it's not showing a larger image here because we don't have really big images for this website. But again, if I go into the mobile layout, we will see how this kind of works out. And this is where you'll get the bigger image there. So this is really what I wanted on this one. So now I can kind of browse through on mobile, see it very quickly, see the bigger image, zoom in and out. So this works out really nicely. So the layout on this was really easy to do with Bootstrap. However, the magic of this really came in trying to set up the actual back end of this. So let's talk about how assets work a little bit and how I was able to make this work magically with all the asset pipeline. So let's go ahead and go into the code here. Let's open this up. All right, so there's a couple of things that were in play. So let's first go to the actions of the actual gallery page. So this is where one piece of it is. And let's go over here and look at the actual app and talk about resources. So when Buffalo starts up, it actually creates an asset box that we get to use. Let's see, where is that? Right here. So it actually serves this asset box right here. And this is how basically Packer actually grabs everything and puts it into a specific box so that when I build my single binary, it's going to take everything that's in the assets at this point and put them in. Now, if we look where asset box is defined here, we will find it's defined in this render file over here, render.go. And this is where it actually creates the assets box. This is a global variable in the actions package. It's packer.new. And we're just going to tell it it's the public directory. That's all we're doing right there. So what that allows me at this point now over in my gallery handle is basically I'm going to create a assets box walk function, and I'm going to walk through everything that's in there. And I basically want to match anything that has this prefix. So if it's in this prefix right here, that's the directory that I want to load. And then I want to go ahead and add that just to my commercial slice. So I created a slice up here called commercial. I'm going to go through the commercial directory right here, and then I'm going to strip off, and I just want assets in here and the actual name of the file. Now the reason I want this is I'm going to use this with my template later. And so I go ahead and grab all those, and then I actually set into the context a variable called commercial, and I just give it that slice of actual file names at this point. That's all I do. Now I repeat the same dance for my theater directory and for my pre-wire directory. So that's the actual three directories we see. So if we look back here, we can see that that's the three directories, right? That's the three sets of photos that we have and images that we want to show. So then from a template standpoint, this is fairly simple as well. All I had to do here in the templates, let's close out this one here, was you've got all of the actual Bootstrap layout here. Nothing real fancy there, but what I did here is I've got this for loop, and I'm going to go ahead and just go through the images in the theater collection first. So I'm just going to loop through those. And effectively all I'm doing at this point is I'm going to use the asset path helper. And this is really important. So what I'm doing is in the asset path helper, you give it the asset path and then you give it the IMG. Now this will make sure that it looks into Packer and all those kind of things first. And also if you're doing any type of asset signing, it's going to make sure it untangles all of that for you as well. So you use the asset path helper, makes it very, very simple. So at that point, all we did was do that. I have a modal up here, as you can see it as well. And this modal is basically just using Bootstrap to put the modal in and out. So this is the modal here. and then this is the actual thumbnail. And I'm using a little trick here that I've learned to do IDs. We use the I, and then what I do here is for the data target, I just basically give it the index number in there. So I just pick a label like TH modal, but I insert the number in there, which allows me that when I go ahead and if I look at the source code here, we'll see that the ID on this right here, if I can find it, is TH0 modal, right? So that's what we're seeing right there. So that allows me to target everything specifically. And if I look at this one, let's inspect this one here, we'll see kind of the same thing going on. I've got the TH1 modal. So that's just me using the index and being clever about how I go ahead and set my template up. So using all of this right here allowed me with very little code at all. Effectively, this is my gallery code, right? This is it. So now when I update the website for my friend, if I go ahead and add new images in there, all I have to do is go ahead and reload the page, right? Repack it and redeploy it. So this is kind of the final layout with all of the final functionality that I wanted. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to talk about how we actually deploy this website. So the last thing we have to do is actually build the actual project. And like I mentioned earlier, Buffalo is really nice because it's going to take all of your assets and it's going to go ahead and pull them in and put them into a binary encoding into the actual build itself, which allows me to go ahead and deploy a single static binary when I'm done. It's really as simple as just saying Buffalo build at this point. So if I do this, what's going to happen is it's going to go ahead and grab all of the assets, put them into a binary format, and then it's going to go ahead and give me a single binary when I'm done. Now, this is going to build this binary for my architecture that I'm on currently. So I'm on a Mac architecture Darwin right now. And so now it's going to put that in the bin directory. So if I do an ls of the bin directory, we'll see that I have this new binary there. Now, this is fine if I want to run it locally, which will work. However, I'm going to deploy to a DigitalOcean droplet. And so I need to actually have a Linux build. So to go ahead and build for the target architecture I want for the Linux architecture, I just have to specify the operating system of the target architecture, which is Linux. And you can do this with standard Go build as well, but Buffalo build takes the same type of syntax. So if I just go ahead and say that now, Go build for Buffalo, this will go ahead and build for my target architecture. Now, what's really nice about this is now all I have to do is basically deploy this to my droplet. There'll be one last thing I want to do as well, which I want to configure the actual port that it's going to run in. I can do that a couple ways. I can set the environment out there. I can hard code it into the actual binary itself for the actual code, or I can use an env file. So if I go into the actual directory for the bin here, there's my new binary that is created, and then I can basically edit the env file. So I can go ahead and touch a .env right there, and then I can go ahead and edit the .env file. And I already did this earlier, and so what I did is I actually put port equals 8001. On my deployment, I'm actually running a reverse proxy with Nginx, so I just go ahead and set the port number, so when I spin this up in production, I just want it to launch on 8001. Buffalo will automatically look into this. There's an entire section on environment variables for Buffalo, which I'll go ahead and link in the documentation for this project as well. But that's kind of it. So at this point, I can basically take this single binary, I can take this environment file I need and go ahead and put it on my DigitalOcean box, which I've already done at this point, and it will run. So if we actually go out now to the production site, I can go to Craig's Custom Sounds, and we will see that this is live and in production at this point. Now, notice that the gallery still works, right? These are all the actual package static assets that went up with it. And because I use the Packer asset box for it, I didn't have to do anything special and remember any different directories. So that's kind of it. So as we can see, it didn't take very long to do this. This was a static website, but I still have some dynamic functionality. I needed the gallery. I wanted my navigation to be dynamic. I used a basic bootstrap layout, so very simple. So as you can see, if you have some friends that need a very simple static website, but maybe some custom functionality, within an hour or two, really you can get this up and running and deployed, which is what I like. Again, I run this on a DigitalOcean box. It doesn't get a lot of traffic. It costs me $5 a month for hosting. You really can't beat it. There's a ton of other ways you can deploy Buffalo as well. If you read the documentation, you can deploy to Heroku. You can use your Git automation to literally, as soon as you check into master, it's going to compile it and send it out to Heroku. So there's all kinds of options out there. But I just wanted to put this video together to show you very quickly that it doesn't take a lot of effort to get up and running. And there's great documentation. And more than that, there's also a great Slack channel as well. So I did use the Slack channel a couple times to have some of my questions answered. But hopefully this gives you a quick little introduction to Buffalo with a really simple static website. Thanks for watching. If you have any questions, don't hesitate to reach out.
This video was brought to you by Gopher Guides. If you are an organization, conference, or user group looking for Go training, please visit gopherguides.com. For more great videos like this one, please visit gopherguides.tv.